Konnichiwa, Mina. After finally finishing working on them, I finally finished the conferences, the divisions, and of course the teams, and now I'm going to start previewing them. But first, the conferences. So here is a template I made of the conferences, which will be up, the conference names will be up here. The division names in each bracket within the next 6 blocks, and in between those divisions will be the division teams, their logo, and maybe their name written down, and maybe change the box's color to match the team's color. So that's what it's gonna be. So first off, the conferences. Now, normally when I've done these football leagues, I always do American and national, but that's been done so many times, including the NFL already. I want to do something different, so no American this time. But I couldn't really think of anything, so the first conference is the National Conference, and for the second conference, we're going to go back to the 50s and 60s for the NFL and go the Century Conference. Yeah, I think the National Conference was around back then too, so this is looking so far like an NFL from the 60s and 70s, so I'm going to have to look that up. But yeah, I'm not really good with the names, but I can't really think of anything else. So maybe you all could think of something better for next season. And now for the divisions. The National and Century East. The National and Century Central. Yeah, that's going to be a real tongue twister. The Century Central. Oh, God. The National and Century. And finally, the National and Century West. And now to show off the teams. And first off, in the National East, the National East has the Boston Destroyers, the Cleveland Bulldogs, the Manhattan Greens, the Philadelphia Hawks, and finally, the Washington Americans. Now I was going to do all the teams in one conference and then do the other, but since it's stretching them out into a second page, which is off screen, I think I'll take care of the Century's East teams next, and they are the Baltimore Charm, the Buffalo Sabres, the Cincinnati Colts, the Columbus Barons, and finally, the Pittsburgh Blitz. Alright, I fixed the template around, so now I can display all the teams in one go. So now, let's get back to the National Central. So the teams in the National Central will be the Denver Miners, the Indianapolis Express, the Louisville Saints, the Milwaukee Lakers, and finally, the Omaha Thunder. So that's everyone in National Central. Now they take care of the National West, South. And they are the Atlanta Trojans, the Birmingham Hornets, Jacksonville Bucks, the San Antonio Longhorns, and finally, the Tampa Tropics. And that's it for the National South. And now for the final division in the National Conference, the National West. And they are, and to start off with will be a team that has only had a professional football team as I know of one time, and it was in the 70s, and that is Honolulu. We're going to have a team in Hawaii in this league. How about that? And that Honolulu team will be called the Honolulu Phantoms. And then the Los Angeles Angels, the Phoenix Storm, the Portland Dragons, and finally, the Oakland Majors. So that's all the teams in the National Conference, and you've already seen the first 5 teams in the Century Conference, and now they get to the Century Central. Oh, jeez, I should have thought about that beforehand. And the teams in that division are the Chicago 71ers, the Detroit Engines, the Kansas City Hammerheads, and next is a name that you might have a trouble understanding at first, the Minneapolis Kitsune. Now, Kitsune is a yokai, which is mythical Japanese supernatural shit, basically. And Kitsune was basically like a mythical fox, so that's where it's based upon. And even has Kitsune written in Japanese right on the head, if you can see. And then finally, the Oklahoma Oilers, who are based in Oklahoma City. And that's everyone in the Century Central. Oh boy. And now the Century South, which has the Dallas Stars, obviously a reference to the Cowboys, of course. The Houston Twisters. The Miami Sharks. The New Orleans Jazz. And finally, the Orlando Astros. Well, all that's left is the final divisions, and that is the Century West. And that will have the El Paso Mustangs, the Las Vegas Gamblers, the San Diego Rays, the San Francisco Union, and finally, last but not least, the Seattle Quakes. And that's all the teams in the PFA. And next up will be the inaugural draft. So now I gotta get the order all set up. So see you next for that. So I'm gonna spend the last few seconds not talking and just let you all take one final look at the teams. And if you got any questions, leave them in the comments.